Hey guys, how are you? It's Ebony. Thank you for clicking on my video. I want to show you a few of my favorite plant tools. I was trying to count them, but I'm not actually sure. So anyway, it's a ton of YouTube videos that talk about people's most commonly used plant tools, but I feel like a lot of them are very similar because all plants have basically kind of similar needs. So I wanted to show you a few tools that are not your mother's tools. These are things that are a little bit newer, probably in the past 5 to 10 years, or at least newer than what I've seen. And so let's just jump right in. So the first thing are these uncured pieces of wood, and I have to be careful because they actually have bark on them. This is one of the larger ones, but I also have some that are smaller, and I like using these to sit under some of my plant pots as kind of a drip tray, just because it's more interesting than a traditional drip tray. Okay, so let's show you an example. I would put this under here like this. Probably not with this exact pot, but something similar. And they will provide a little bit of a moisture retention. They're not, I wouldn't put a dripping wet pot on top of them, but they will provide some protection underneath of them. And plus, I just like the look of it with the unfinished bark. But these literally are chips of wood, so there will be some tiny pieces of bark breaking off, so look out for that. Okay. Oh, and I'll show you, so the comparison to that is this, which I can't really remember where I got it from, but it sat underneath a plant and it has like a little bit of cork board, and I just thought that the pieces of wood were more flattering than this, which one of my plants was actually sitting on. Another tool, or one of my plant favorites, are these greening pins. And I know a lot of people will use bobby pins or pieces of wire to sort of shape them into something and use it to hold plants down, things like vines, to place them or position them. But I really like this. I got a huge box probably 3 years ago, and I don't know how I could possibly run out of these things. They're very, very inexpensive. And I'll leave links for all of this stuff in the video description. But what I really like using this for are my Tradescantia plants, because they tend to get wild and a little, they tend to move around quite a bit. So this is just something that I use to pin down the vines, and ultimately from watering it, it will start to rust. But as you know, a little bit of rust actually is good for your houseplants. So it's fine if they get wet. So this is very common, especially with Hoyas. And I actually received this from a Hoya I bought, this little cup. But they're very irritating to me because they're so lightweight, and Hoyas tend to be a little top heavy. So I found these plastic mugs on Amazon, and I use these instead. This is just really thick plastic. What I do is I will burn a hole in it with a soldering iron. It's easier if I just melt a hole in it versus using a drill, because the plastic can crack. So I add just a little hole here for drainage, or a little hole at the bottom of the cup. And this is just a lot more stable, and also it just looks better. Okay, so Here, this Carnosa Crimson Queen is an example of how I use my plastic cup. It serves the same purpose, but it's just a lot heavier and more stable. And usually by the time I receive Hoya plants in here, there's a lot of roots in it already, so I'm not really worried about the cup being too large for it or causing root rot. And I just think it just looks better, especially with this bonsai soil, which has a little bit of color in it. It just looks way more attractive for your little cuttings, your little Hoya babies, in my opinion. Okay. All right. This, I discovered recently that you can actually use these Clorox wipes to help clean your plants. And I did use it on a plant that had spider mites on my Dieffenbachia sterling, and it did not harm my plant at all. I was able to clean and remove those spider mites and then treat it with neem oil, and it's still doing well. So this is just something that I discovered. A little bit of bleach is not going to kill most plants, and yeah, and it's easy. Okay. Then I look at my Petite Garden all the time on YouTube, and I recently saw the person recording a video using, I don't know how to show it. But it's this basically. Mine is black, and this, you just basically make a little, I don't know what you call it, but I put those down when I'm changing my plant soil, and it prevents me from making as much of a mess. And then I usually will take the potting mat, I believe it's called. I would take the potting mat outside and kind of just brush it off and leave it at that. But this is a newer tool that I really like using because I had a dish pan, but it disappeared. And this one is smaller. It's a lot more compact, so it's easier to put it away and have less plant clutter, which is something that, you know, I have sometimes. Okay. Okay, one last thing I forgot to include is this, and I'm not sure what you call this. I'll put the title up there, but this is, can you see? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm gonna water this, like super thoroughly water it. Yes. So do you see how the water that's pooled at the bottom and is about to overflow? Now I'm going to suck it up. And this is really good for hanging baskets, especially because it's harder to tell. But this prevents a lot of spills and has turned into one of my little favorite tools. And I got this on Amazon. They're very inexpensive, and 3 of them came in a pack. I can't remember where I learned about it from, but this is definitely one of my favorite little plant tools. All right, so this next thing is Easy Wet. It's a soil penetrant, and I use this basically like a pre-poo. And I learned about this from Growing Succulents with Liz K, because I look at her videos a lot. So what I'll do is just take my water, I'll measure out a bit of this, and I will use this on many of my plants. And one of them was my Dieffenbachia, and what I noticed was that I had to keep watering the plant a lot, but the plant still was getting brown tips because the water wasn't staying in the soil long enough to really moisturize. Okay. And then the last tools, which I also learned about from my Petite Garden, are these Susty water meters. And basically both of these, you put inside a plant close to where the roots are. And when it's blue, it means that the plant has enough water. When it turns white, or more or less like a clear color like this, that means the plant is dry. You do have to replace the refill for every 6 to 9 months. So basically this meter will only last six to 9 months. But what I recently discovered is that they actually have the refill cores, which is a lot more economical. And then you can go back and just replace the refill in 6 months or something like that, or if you notice that it's not really working correctly for you. But I felt like this is just a really handy tool for plants like the Dieffenbachia, larger plants that you need to retain their moisture, maybe for like a monstera or something. Anyway, there are things that are a little bit newer, a little more up to date, and I really enjoy using them, and I use them a lot. So, all right, well, thank you for checking in and looking at my video, and I will see you guys later. Bye.